George S. Patton Jr. venerated his warrior forebears with an obsession that bordered on ancestor worship. He saw himself not as an individual, but as the latest in a line of fallen heroes. He was inspired by the pantheon of forefathers who had bravely served as soldiers before him. He would frequently visit their battlefields and cemeteries, seeking to channel their bravery. As his grandson wrote, "It would become Georgie's lifelong habit to conjure reveries and mystical moments while wandering cemeteries, old battlefields, and ancient ruins, preferably at night, alone. It was part of his search for connection to the past. The romance of death attracted him. It was eerie, magical, dangerous. It made him feel alive." Patton himself confessed that he felt a strange fascination in exploring old battlefields. He described in moving terms a visit to the Gettysburg battlefield, where 2 of his relatives had been killed. "To get in the proper frame of mind, I wandered through the cemetery and let the spirits of the dead thousands laid there in ordered rows sink deep into me. Then, just as the sun sank behind South Mountain, I walked down to the scene of Pickett's great charge and, seated on a rock just where Olmsted and 2 of my great-uncles died, I watched the wonder of the day go out. It was very wonderful, and no one came to bother me." Before his admission to West Point, Patton entered the Virginia Military Institute, which his father and paternal grandfather had both attended. After VMI, Patton's father chose a career in business and politics rather than the military. He later shared a secret with his son, admitting that he was a man of peace. Perhaps Papa Patton had witnessed too much carnage during the American Civil War. Nevertheless, the father infused his son with romantic notions of war that would fuel his military ambitions, and the father's political connections in Southern California secured the future general's admission to West Point. Chapter 1. Ghosts of the Confederacy. Waller Tazewell Patton, George Smith Patton, Hugh Mercer. I am crying because I have only 7 sons left to fight the Yankees. Peggy Patton. The train pulled into the station at Winchester, Virginia, hours late, having been delayed at several stops along the route from Baltimore. Dark had fallen, and a steady rain pelted the roof of the rail car. Inside the dark baggage car, the teenage Virginia Military Institute cadet sat on top of the casket containing his uncle, a fallen Civil War veteran. As the heavy metal doors of the rail car rumbled open, they revealed a tight huddle of men collected on the train platform, the flickering light from their lanterns reflecting off their rain-soaked oilskin ponchos. The cadet moved nervously toward the open door. If the transfer of the body had not been properly cleared, he might face arrest. "Who are you?" he asked the men gathered outside the rail car. "What do you want?" One of the dark figures stepped forward and unbuttoned his poncho, revealing the dress uniform of a Confederate Army officer. The men silently boarded the train and carried the casket of the fallen hero to a mule-drawn wagon. The dark figures followed the casket as it slowly made its way to the cemetery, accompanied by an elderly veteran beating a muffled drum and a flag-bearer holding the outlawed stars and bars of the defeated rebellion of Southern states. Inside the cemetery, the casket was brought alongside a trench that had been cleared for its burial, next to the site of the cadet's father, also a fallen Civil War hero, and the brother of the dead man whom the cadet had escorted from Baltimore. But the trench, it turned out, was too small. Grabbing a shovel, the young man lowered himself into the hole to widen it. He glanced at his father's exposed casket. After 10 years in the ground, the wooden planks had rotted away, and by the eerie flickering lantern light, he could see the face, the long beard, and at the throat, the gold brocade of his father's gray uniform. Years later, the son, George Smith Patton II, would comment simply about the sight of his father's cadaver. He looked exactly as I remembered him. The uncle whose casket was interred next to that of George Smith Patton I was Waller Tazewell Patton, named for a governor of Virginia, Littleton Waller Tazewell. Called Tazewell or Taz by his family, he was one of 12 children of John Mercer Patton and his wife, Peggy. Of the 9 children whose